A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
Are you ready to dairy-free your mind? This summer, melt away your dairy-free expectations with So Delicious dairy-free frozen desserts. Enjoy mind-blowing flavors like salted caramel cluster, chocolate cookies and cream, cookie dough, and more. For over 35 years, So Delicious has been cranking up the flavor with show-stopping products that are 100% dairy-free, certified vegan by Vegan Action, and are so unbelievably creamy, your taste buds will do a double take. Dairy-free your mind. Visit SoDeliciousDairyFree.com.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're going to recap day number 17 of San Francisco 49ers training camp, and the hits keep on coming for the red and gold because, again, like every other day before it, more injury news headed our way. We'll get into the good, the bad, the ugly, Brock Purdy's performance, Christian McCaffrey's ramp up, but first, I want to ask you to like, share, and subscribe to the show, and let's dive into 49ers training camp day 17. And let's start things off where yesterday's recap ended because, and I'm not kidding you, the second in which I hit end stream, we stopped the podcast and we moved on with our day, the 49ers made a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs for wide receiver Skyy Moore. And when that happened, there was kind of a groan from the fan base of like, yay, receiver. Also, Skyy Moore? Okay, all right, great. And look, Skyy Moore does not move the needle in a big way. Maybe not even at all for some of you out there. He's not going to be a major part of the offense going forward. He's not going to be someone you expect to get, 10 touches a game. He's not somebody you look to and say, hey, can we rely on you in this offense, right? He's not going to be part of the main, top 4 receivers once they're healthy. He's a guy in a pinch you don't mind making a move for that can maybe give you something else or a little bit of a spark compared to, let's say, players like Isaiah Hodgins, Malik Turner, Robbie Chosen-Anderson, or other younger or other veteran free agents on the market where you go get Skyy Moore and a 7th-round pick for a 6th-round pick from Kansas City. Moore isn't going to give you much on special teams, although can be a return man, so that's an option for him to make the roster, which some have said may push Junior Burgeon off the roster, which maybe I don't see that happening, but maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be okay with that. Then there's the other route of Jacob Cowing and Skyy Moore, for both of their lacks of production, have very similar skill sets. Now, I do think San Francisco values what Cowing can bring to the offense, and I do think that acquiring Skyy Moore does afford Cowing maybe a little bit more time to recover. It does feel like San Francisco is going to play things safe with him. 2 back-to-back hamstring injuries in training camp. They want him to be healed up for whatever or whenever he comes back. I think acquiring Skyy Moore gives him a chance to hopefully get healthy, let's say by week 2, 3, or 4, whenever he comes back for San Francisco. That said, Skyy Moore has had a lot of drop issues. He's had not much production to a point where when we saw the report that they acquired Skyy Moore, you had Chiefs fans laughing, saying, I can't believe we got a 6th-round pick for him. That guy's terrible. Oh my goodness. Like, what a mistake by San Francisco. And whether it's on TikTok or on this very channel on YouTube, my instant reaction to the move had a very similar or similar comments from Chiefs fans saying, "Joke's on you guys, Skyy Moore stinks." And I think if your expectations are high for Skyy Moore to be a very pivotal piece of the offense, I think you're mistaken. I think that Skyy Moore was brought in to simply be a placeholder that, yes, is 25 years old. Yes, a former second-round draft pick a couple years ago. Yes, a Super Bowl champion. Yes, someone that can give you some of the gadget plays, has really good speed. He's someone that maybe Kyle, like I'm already kind of hinting towards, again, utilizes him similar to how they view Jacob Cowing. I, again, think San Francisco might want to bring in somebody else. Do I know who that is? I don't know. I mentioned 3 names prior to the Skyy Moore trade getting done, so maybe those guys still remain an option for the Niners. Maybe if Kendrick Bourne can get healthy and is cut by the Patriots, that's an option for them. It does seem like they are not trying to find guys that are going to be on the roster for a long time or guys they have to pay big money to. They just want Band-Aids. And Band-Aids are made to to be removed eventually, to come off once they're healed up. Once your wounds are healed, the Band-Aids aren't needed any longer. So it does feel like Skyy Moore and whoever else they bring in are going to be Band-Aids. You're not going to find Amari Coopers and other guys like that. You're going to have to sit back and kind of wait, for kind of no names or maybe guys that have underperformed, young, cheap, underperforming talent that maybe San Francisco feels like they can squeeze something out of while they await the returns of their bigger receivers on the roster. We have some comments here in the YouTube chat. Niner Goat 16 says, another day, another injury, another day of Alfred Collins being terrible. More of a mixed day from Alfred Collins, but we'll get to him far later in the show. Bobo, how's it going? They say, day 17 of camp and year 32 and counting of no championships. My goodness. Talk about the negativity in the first 2 comments. Niner Goat 16 also asks, can we trade for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? Probably not. If it happens, the sky and the world is ending. Bobo, again, the negativity. Whoop-de-doo, Skyy Moore, championship, baby, let's go. They also say here, I was feeling down, then Kyle Shanahan redeemed himself by getting Skyy Moore. Wow. I know those comments are meant to be kind of tongue-in-cheek and have fun, and maybe there is some seriousness in them, but that negativity is kind of permeating through the fan base right now, where, again, every single day guys are getting hurt. And unfortunately, today is very similar to them. Maybe San Francisco can get something out of Skyy Moore again. Never had over like 30 receptions in a season. Not going to give you much in the running game. Again, an underachieving young receiver San Francisco believes for a short portion of the year they can get something from it as they await the return of Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk and Jacob Cowing. I do think, again, Cowing, like, Skyy Moore is, to me, what they're hoping Cowing can be, but they have so much more high hopes for Cowing. Cowing is a better player than Skyy Moore, but got to be healthy. Like, I think I would probably hit things or hit the nerve of the fan base when I say I'm tired of having guys that you hope can be good, or younger receivers or running backs that should be good, or, if they're healthy, but never reach their potential. I'm really tired of hearing that, and that was kind of the thing with Pearsall last year when he got hurt. It was like, oh, here we go again, and you've had Trey Sermon, Ty Davis Price, Danny Gray, Dante Pettis, over and over and over again, those guys, and you're hoping that Garendo and Cowing kind of buck those trends of mid-round running backs or receivers that can actually kind of give you something during the year. So Skyy Moore feels like the kind of placeholder for Cowing, which I don't think Cowing will get IR'd, which Kawachipto says might happen. It's possible, obviously, with so many injuries that they have, they may have to find some room for guys, but if they do IR him, I think it'll be after the cut-down day to hopefully avoid the season-ending I guess you can say, kind of notion next to that. But Dang Fricker says, what's up? What's up, Dang Fricker? Hope you're having a great Thursday out there in West Hollywood. Looking forward to a live stream tonight, brother. We shall see. What else do we have here? Papa J says, what's up, Sterling? And what's up, Niner gang? Fish and chips, back-to-back days. Happy you're also in here. He says, Grendo ain't no running back. And funny enough, I will get to what you're hinting at here and why it might not be the worst thing in the world for San Francisco if Isaac Grendo maybe isn't utilized as a running back so much this season. And Lori Matthews asks, anyone left healthy after practice today? And that's a perfect segue into the next part of the show, because the San Francisco 49ers traded for Skyy Moore yesterday to make room for him on the active roster today. They placed cornerback Trey Brown on injured reserve. It hasn't been called season ending, but that is my assumption. You're probably not going to see Trey Brown the rest of the year, which sucks. They signed him as one of their veteran cheap, plug a hole free agent this offseason, a guy you would expect to be the CB3 coming into camp. Unfortunately, has fallen down the depth chart all the way to the third-team defense with the emergence of Chase Lucas and Dallas Flowers. So no Trey Brown, it seems like this year. My other question with that is, does that open up a spot for Siren Neal? Does it maybe make San Francisco retain Darrell Luter Jr.? Or does Jacob Robinson, the UDFA, maybe hold on to a roster spot with so many guys injured? I'm hoping it's either Robinson or Siren Neal, with my desire that being Jacob Robinson has had a pretty good camp thus far. But again, with so many guys injured, they have so many tough decisions to make as roster cutdown day looms. Preseason week 3 this Saturday, so maybe one last chance for guys to prove themselves. However, the receiver room is still in shambles because Russell Gage, where we didn't get the news yesterday, we got it like early this morning from Adam Schefter that Russell Gage, a guy that is kind of in the running to be the receiver 2 or 3 with Ayuk and Jennings and Cowling on the shelf right now, he apparently sprained his MCL. I'm not sure if that was against the Raiders or if that was in practice yesterday, but he'll be out for 7 to 10 days. It does seem like that he will be back for week 1, so maybe not that big of a scare, but whenever you hear another wide receiver goes down, the guy that now you're relying on to be a depth piece, now going to be a starter for you, likely to begin the season, also goes down, your heart continues to drop, and you start to feel your blood pressure raise of like, what the heck is going on out there in San Francisco? And funny enough, Ricky Pearsall, he said in his post-practice press conference today that the injuries to the wide receiver room definitely aren't normal. So your worries, your concerns, your maybe bitterness, anger towards how many injuries they have, the questions you may have as to why these things are happening, that same thought is held inside the room of like, what's going on? Is it the training staff? Is it the stretching? Is it the dynamic stretching? What's going on out there? Why are these guys getting hurt so often? The team has the exact same questions themselves, where sometimes things are freak injuries and you can't help it, but it does seem like there is some black magic, voodoo, dark plague hovering over San Francisco. That said, thankfully nothing is, again, too serious. There's only a couple guys out for the season, which one of them, that being Corey Kiner, who was waived yesterday with an injury designation. Guy we all liked in the preseason and training camp, a standout UDFA from Cincinnati. He was not claimed. So San Francisco was able to retain Corey Kiner, and he is now placed on season-ending injured reserve for them. So maybe a small bright spot, maybe something that to kind of, that's not too bad. But in that, they also brought back Tanner Mordecai after having Nate Sudfeld for 2 practices.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Can I just be honest with you? Nate Sudfeld sucks. Now, Tanner Mordecai also isn't that good, but with so many bodies on the shelf, guys getting hurt, not wanting to play Brock Purdy this Saturday against the Chargers in the preseason finale, and then Mac Jones being injured, it makes sense to bring back Tanner Mordecai. That way you have Carter Bradley and Mordecai, two guys that can at least run your system, know your system, and guys you've done the last couple of years in the quarterback room to at least be not disgustingly terrible. So Mordecai's back, Sudfeld's gone, Corey Kiner was waived, now is back on injured reserve because nobody claimed him yesterday. So again, there is some good news. But while there is some good news to be had via the Corey Kiner retention via IR, he'll get a red shirt for a year, recover from the injury he has, and probably not play the rest of the season, which again isn't the worst thing in the world. We all were kind of hoping that they can bring him back in some way, whether it be via the practice squad or being on the actual roster after cutdown day. However, injuries have had their own kind of idea as to how the season will go, but nice to have Corey Kiner back in the room in some form, albeit not healthy, which sucks. However, it does seem like San Francisco's are going to have their top 3 running backs back by week 1. That said, let's talk about the attendance for today because, again, so many guys out. Jordan Watkins, Yetur Gross-Matos, CJ West, Kevin Givens, Fabian Moreau, Richie Grant, Dominic Purdy, Micah Williams, Jordan James, Ben Barch, Juwan Jennings, Mac Jones. All of those guys were out and not seen today. Stone Blanton, the UDFA linebacker, was rehabbing on the sideline. Alongside him was a standout third-round pick, Upton Stout, who is hoping to return next week after a calf injury has cost him the entire preseason. So, again, some small glimpses of good news in San Francisco did say that Ben Barch and Dominic Purdy are tracking to be back by week 1. So, more good news, albeit, again, we are kind of playing a wait-and-see game with all these guys because everybody on that list, maybe outside of Yetur Gross-Matos and Kevin Givens, San Francisco is holding out hope they'll be back by week 1. Juwan Jennings and Jordan Watkins certainly among those who you are kind of eagerly hoping can get back because the receiver room, again, is so downtrodden and injured. That said, we did get 2 guys back at practice today, that being Malik Turner. So one receiver came back, albeit not the guy you want to come back. Malik Turner's back. Then Robert Beal Jr. also returned to practice, so some defensive support coming off the edge with RBJ. Then Nick Bosa, he is and has practiced the last couple of days, but neck soreness. He is not doing team drills, will not practice or will not play this Saturday against the Chargers, and I think they are just playing things completely safe, saying, look, put him on ice and we'll see him against Seattle week 1. I don't know where the neck soreness came from, whether it was working out or just practicing, because Nick Bosa, they have handled him with kid gloves the entire offseason, as they should. He hasn't practiced much. He hasn't played much. And so to see him injured and maybe it be somewhat concerning with the injured neck, they are, again, telling him, just go rest up. We will see you after roster cutdown day. So some returns, some good news in the wake of some absences, but let's get to the actual news and notes of today. But first, I want to ask you to like, share, and subscribe, and use this promo code right here, 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase, whether it's concert tickets, baseball tickets, NFL tickets. Use that promo code and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Back to the YouTube chat, we have some questions. Fish and Chips asks, when did Upton Stout get injured? I believe he got hurt in joint practices against the Broncos prior to the first preseason game. I don't think he realized it was that bad. Then things kind of lingered after Friday, leading into the preseason opener against Denver. He didn't play in that game and hasn't practiced since then. So I think the expectation, though, is he'll be back by next week as they gear up for the season opener against the Seattle Seahawks. So, again, a lot of guys on the shelf, but a lot of guys are supposed to be back. Let's hope that's the case. But let's get into my news and notes from the actual practice session, not guys that are out, not trades or other injuries. But we did have some injury scares today, which is never what you want to see. DeMarcus Robinson, wide receiver, who is currently going to be suspended for the first 3 games of the year. He was limited during team drills today. He was kind of being, again, off the sideline, doing some things. He did not participate in individual drills. So it's pretty fair to wonder as to whether DeMarcus Robinson, who, again, is not going to play the first chunk of games to begin the year, is also battling a small injury. Hopefully it's not too serious, because if he can win the appeal against his suspension for a DUI back in November, maybe they can get back to DeMarcus Robinson earlier than assumed. But if he's injured, he's not going to play at all. So some questions have risen for DeMarcus Robinson's status for Week 1 outside of the DUI he had back in November. Then the other really big scare of today's practice was to Trent Williams. I think I can all say that if Trent goes down while the season isn't over, it's going to be almost impossible to win 10-plus games this year if you're in that boat. The Niners desperately need their stars to stay healthy, because they're going to be reliant on so many young guys to be out there and playing some meaningful snaps. They were doing a lot of running drills late in practice today, and unfortunately, it was a sloppier practice. Handful of fumbles, handful of failed pitches, and in the running drills, there was a couple of plays where guys are falling down left and right, and Trent was towards the bottom of the pile. And there were a few plays where back-to-back goes down, kind of got back up gingerly. In the second play, went down, and it was like, uh-oh, is Trent okay? What's going on? And thankfully, he got back up, again, albeit gingerly, and he did finish practice. I said he was okay, but Trent definitely giving guys a scare, giving the fans, giving the media, giving us a scare as to whether he can hold out or be healthy for a full 18-game schedule. The odds are already pretty slim, and knowing how many guys are already injured, seeing Trent in a rather meaningless practice prior to Week 3 of the preseason going down, and then great thing getting back up, just not loving Trent going on the ground and getting up gingerly. So thankfully he was okay. San Francisco continues to avoid the big one, which is great, but you cannot continue to do that and then get away with it. So happy to see Trent get up, but a big scare for us out there at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. Definitely wondering if Trent is okay. Hopefully being on ice for the next 4 to 5 days will certainly help him get back to full health again, because they need him in a big way. Let's move on to the safety rotation, because with no Malik Mustafa, no Richie Grant, there's been a lot of movement on the back end of San Francisco's defense. For a variety of reasons, you've seen Jason Pinnock, who was hurt earlier this week, didn't play in the preseason game 2 against the Raiders. He came back at practice yesterday and was heavily featured in the defense today. So again, more good news there. A guy who had a really good training camp before he got injured in a really good OTA session. Him and Marquise Siegel, the rookie out of Kansas State, both shared first-team reps at safety and took the majority of those reps, with Jair Brown mixed in sparingly. So again, you're seeing a 3-person safety rotation, with Jair Brown, again, kind of being slid down the depth chart. So there has been some rumors percolating that San Francisco could be trying to move Jair Brown for either a wide receiver or some offensive line help, or just draft picks to kind of recoup something from him. But right now, it does seem like San Francisco has kind of honed in on Marquise Siegel and Jason Pinnock being their two safeties to begin the season, unless Mustafa miraculously comes back or something catastrophic happens with Pinnock or Siegel. Those seem to be your two safeties as the season continues and as the Week 1 game against Seattle looms. That said, let's stay on defense for 1 second because Niner Goat 16 has definitely been very vocal about their displeasure with the Niners' second-round pick, Alfred Collins, throughout training camp in the preseason. As they say here again, Alfred Collins might as well be out. Also, I already read their comments earlier saying another day, another poor performance from Collins himself. So, not a big fan of Alfred Collins, that being Niner Goat 16, but I think, again, to hammer home the point, and I'm going to assume Chris Kocurek and the rest of that defensive coaching staff, they are going to be yelling, screaming at Alfred Collins to get his pads down. That, to me, will be the biggest key for him. And I've already said it plenty of times here, but a big issue with him has been when his pad level's down, he is a tough SOB to move in the running game. He's so big, he's so large, he takes up so much space. If he can maintain leverage, he is going to be exactly what he's advertised to be, but there's just too many inconsistent reps in there, with the pad level being the biggest issue, where he gets flushed out too easy, he gets moved out of plays too quickly, and holes are opened up. So that today was the exact same thing. If his pads are down, good Alfred Collins, good stuff out there, but as soon as he raises up, it's a crapshoot. It's like, oh my God, this is over. So that is like the one big defensive standout today. Fish and Chip says here, it kind of sounds like Javon Kinlaw. They're different players, albeit similar in some ways, but
this summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
This isn't just an Alfred Collins thing or a Javon Kinlaw thing. When you find yourself being 6'5", 6'6", even sometimes there are 6'7" defensive linemen, when you're that big, yes, you love the you love the girth, the width of those guys to eat up space, but when you're that big, you don't have natural leverage over guards that are 6'2" and 6'3", and guys that are naturally already lower to the ground. So, yes, there are some similarities, but those are not directly Kinlaw, Collins specific. They are an overall big, tall defensive lineman specific. So. I think there was a guy in the draft, Deion Walker, this year from Kentucky. A lot of guys liked him coming out, but he's 6'7". The pad level's too high. There are too many plays where he's getting flushed out of plays, and you don't see him much because, again, you don't have natural leverage, and you get moved around too much. Thankfully, Collins isn't 6'7", but that is a big problem for him, where whenever he raises up, it's almost like he shouldn't even be out there. So, hoping... Like, the more he plays, again, he's one of those guys that can benefit from, he can benefit from guys being injured, where almost every rep he takes will hopefully help him improve quickly, because this team needs him. And I think that, when you're talking about rotations, I don't know how heavily he'll feature into the rotation to begin the year, but the more he plays, hopefully he'll get his body right for this season. And I still am in the camp that believes the ankle injury and the slow start have hindered him, but there were still pad level problems at Texas, which was one of his big knocks. So hopefully Kocurek and company can kind of hammer it home to him of dude, you are not going to play much if your pads don't get down, but that is a big problem for him, but hopefully he can get things cleared up soon. Moving on to the offense, because the offense is the big takeaway from today. Yesterday, the last couple of days, a lot of Pearsall, a lot of Kittle. That was the same, albeit Pearsall didn't have a good of a practice as he usually does. The big highlight of today was Christian McCaffrey, as he was yesterday as well. You can clearly tell they are ramping things up for CMC. They are trying to get him geared up. He's not going to play in the preseason finale against the Chargers on Saturday, so they're making these last couple practices kind of like his preseason workflow, a lot of reps, a lot of runs. However, where yesterday and the last couple of days were heavy running days for him to find holes, create lanes, and he was doing those things extremely well. Today, a much bigger passing day for CMC. Didn't have much room to run today with Purdy and Barch on the sideline, yet he was a major factor in the rush and the passing attack. Caught a touchdown from Brock Purdy in the red zone today, which he has done almost all training camp long. And I think, again, that will be like we have made so much of the Niners don't have receivers. I don't think San Francisco feels that much pressure. And I think this is kind of a big conversation to have as to where is the pressure in San Francisco's building, because fans can feel it, right? They can sense the injuries. It's 2020. It's 2024 all over again. Oh, it's just like last year. So many guys are hurt. And it's really easy for the season to spiral for players, Brock, Pearsall, Christian, Trent, everybody, younger guys, which is a younger team, or at least this team has younger guys that are going to be relied on to play some big snaps for them. It's easy for the season to spiral out of control. I know the fan base already feels that way. It's like panic mode, DEFCON, whatever the worst one is, 5, 1, 17, doesn't matter, -12, I don't know what it is, but the fan base already feels that pressure building and mounting, whereas San Francisco, you can tell, well, yes, they realize they have to have some bodies, and yes, they would like their guys to be healthy, especially on the offense and defensive lines. However, the wide receiver room being this hurt, there doesn't seem to be this, I guess you can say, urgency to find replacements or find healthier bodies to help contribute. Well, yes, you make a trade for Skyy Moore, it's a pick swap, and Moore just happens to be one of the guys involved in there. And again, he's a Band-Aid. He's not going to be here for the next decade and a half, right? He's going to be here for, 5 weeks, and then we'll see where Skyy Moore is when it's all said and done. But I do think that having Christian McCaffrey and having George Kittle and having what seems to be an ascending Ricky Pearsall healthy, having those three guys out there are kind of giving the Niners maybe a sense of calmness of, we don't really need to go out there and find a wide receiver. Yeah, we'd like to go out and have our guys healthy, but maybe the need isn't there just yet. I also think Colin Cowherd, for as much as you think of him, positive, negative, I think he has a great analogy for wide receivers where if you're baking a cake, right, you have the ingredients, the flour, the sugar, the eggs, you have all the ingredients, which is the offensive line, the quarterback, the defensive line, the head coaching, all those things involved that can make a cake, right? Colin Cowherd has often considered wide receivers as icing, where sometimes, some teams, some people don't like icing. Sometimes you can have too much icing. Sometimes there's too little icing. And sometimes cakes don't always need icing. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you want it, but you don't need it. So, while I do think San Francisco would certainly value having Ayuk and Jennings and Cowling and Watkins and Russell Gage and all their guys healthy, I do think that having Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk and Ricky Pearsall and other guys in the room that they view as potential passing attack threats are not, having those guys healthy and good to go are not pushing them or at least making them be somewhat hesitant to panic, which I think is a good thing because seasons can spiral out of control quickly. We saw it last year. We saw it a handful of years ago in 2020. But I do think that having Christian healthy and those guys out there do almost give the 49ers some sense of security. Now, maybe week 1, week 2, week 3, we learn it's a false sense of it, but I do feel like that you don't always need the icing. There's a reason why pound cake is so good. It doesn't have icing on there. Bundt cake doesn't always need icing. So the Niners may view themselves as a pound cake, a ground and pound cake for the first few weeks, which inherently isn't a bad thing. But once you get the icing back and you can hopefully do some more things and the offense can involve more trickery and the playbook opens up. But the Niners may view themselves as a ground and pound cake to begin the year. Which brings me to Isaac Guerendo, because Jordan James is supposed to be back by next week. Isaac Guerendo is back, though. And we had a comment, I believe it was by Fish and Chips, all the way towards the top of the comment section on YouTube. And they said, Guerendo ain't no running back. And to that I say, he does play running back. But I do think Guerendo can be a portion, somewhat of a factor in the passing game. I think Guerendo's skill set, being a former wide receiver in high school, translates to his skill set more, whether it's in the flat, on those whip routes up the seam. I think Guerendo, who, yes, gives you the one cutback ability, I do believe that he can be a screen guy. He can be a vital part of the passing attack throughout the entirety of the year, but in the absence of your wide receivers, Guerendo can be a guy that hopefully, whether it has, CMC in the slot and Guerendo in the backfield, you have the versatility with him to utilize him more as a wide receiver, get him in open space, and utilize that speed more. So while Guerendo today wasn't great, a couple of fumbles towards the end of practice and the end of the play, but even then, you can't tackle, or at least San Francisco doesn't tackle in practice, so it's like, where do plays end? Where do they... when's the whistle blow? Would it be a fumble? Would it not be a fumble? But today had a couple of those. However, I don't know if you can count those. That said, he, I think, is kind of building towards being a bigger weapon in the passing game. And I think with so many guys out, he is someone that can be a player that steps up, and I think should and will this season. I do think that the Niners are going to have to rely on him early on in the year, and I think Guerendo is built to be a larger part of the offense compared to previous seasons. The bigger question is, can he stay healthy? I think in a perfect world, you have Christian McCaffrey, then Jordan James as your primary, guys on the ground in the tackles, whereas Guerendo becomes kind of the third down, change of pace, quick guy, maybe first down plays too, but certainly utilized in a very specific way in the passing game to hopefully get him in space. Maybe he is in that Deebo Samuel kind of role in regards to the end arounds and stuff. Again, he has 4.3 speed for a reason. You want those guys on the field for you with Christian McCaffrey in the slot or whatnot. Maybe you go 5 wide and you have Guerendo and McCaffrey out there too. Again, there are ways they can get creative with their running backs, who are a pretty versatile bunch for as many questions as they have. Again, like Guerendo and Christian McCaffrey can both be running backs and wide receivers, so there is reason to believe that Guerendo may be a larger portion of the offense to begin the season. Riddy says here in the YouTube chat, trade for, or in his case, sign for Brian Robinson and get that three-headed monster going. Well, I don't know if San Francisco wants to trade for Brian Robinson. There was some rumors that they were a team that were certainly involved in trade discussions with him, so maybe that is an option they take. However, why do the Commanders not want Brian Robinson? That has to be asked. I like Brian Robinson a lot. He was on my fantasy team last year as my 4th running back, which wasn't that bad. I won the league, so good for me. But Brian Robinson, to me, you have whenever teams cut players, you have to ask why. What's wrong? Sometimes nothing. Sometimes it's just money. Sometimes it is simple as I don't know, we like some guys better. But Brian Robinson, the Commanders could use a guy like Brian Robinson. And so it is kind of perplexing as to why they cut him, which again leads me to ask, what's going on there? Something has to be up, whether it's medical or he looks slower or he just isn't a good fit. I don't know. But sometimes there's a reason as to why other teams' leftovers are leftovers and are not main courses. And sometimes they get stuck in the back of the fridge and we all go, oh, I forgot that was in there. So Brian Robinson may be an option, but I don't think a very important one to get. I would rather go out there and wait for cutdown day. There will be a ton of running backs on the open market once roster cutdown day comes and goes. And I know some fans already feel like that they, shouldn't have traded Jordan Mason. So we shall see. What's up, Kenny 49ers? Hope you're having a great Thursday afternoon. And let's get to Brock Purdy, because Brock, for all the talk of how bad, like the great equalizer in having injured running backs and injured wide receivers is having a darn good quarterback to lift that room up. And I think Brock, who we haven't seen him do it successfully all the way through the entire year without his players, albeit there was some times early in last season where they should have won a couple of those games and it was not Brock's fault whatsoever. Brock, like he has been for the most of training camp and preseason, was locked in today. He was 16 for 21. However, one of the incompletions was a throwaway, so he was 16 for 20 in that case. The other one slipped through a player's hands, or excuse me, it slipped through Brock Purdy's hands. He was throwing the ball forward, it slipped through his hands, so if you want to scratch that, if you don't, whatever, that can be 16 for 19, or it can still be 16 for 20. And then the other big play that didn't count was, when I tell you, a perfect delivered football from Brock Purdy to Tariq Owens in between two defenders, like boop, thread the needle right to him, and then Tariq Owens dropped it. So,
talk about stepping up. Bang! Bang!
It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
There was some context as to why maybe Brock didn't have the greatest completion percentage at practice, which is important to note. Brock also had another pretty pass to Ricky Pearsall in the back of the end zone that would have been a touchdown, but Pearsall couldn't get his feet in. So, again, some context as to why maybe Brock didn't have these amazing stats for training camp, if you care. I don't, but if you do care, there's your context as to why. Purdy did find, though, George Kittle on a very deep out on the money against Jair Brown in coverage, and then later threw a touchdown to Christian McCaffrey in the red zone. So another strong day from Brock, and I think, again, when you have so many questions as to guys are out and guys are hurt and who's going to step up, I believe that Brock can be the ultimate equalizer in that, where you see when Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and maybe other quarterbacks along those lines in previous years, when their receivers are out, again, there are varying degrees of success, and when your top stars are out, you're not going to play as good, but can you keep your team afloat? Can you, raise the stakes? Can you survive with those guys off the field? I think Brock, if he continues to play as good as he did today and throughout training camp, and as good as he played against the Raiders in the preseason in that one drive where they looked really good, although they didn't score a touchdown, Brock can be the ultimate equalizer in this. We're hitting guys in stride, where if it is Isaiah Hodgins or Chosen Anderson or Russell Gage or Skyy Moore, it certainly feels like that Brock can almost erase the fear of no receivers. And you already have guys that can still, like, you have an offensive player of the year running back in the backfield. You have George Kittle, a Hall of Fame tight end. If you can't win with those guys on the football field and a first-round pick receiver in Pearsall, there's a problem. So I do think Brock is kind of the answer there. So I don't know. Let's see. Kenny 49ers asks here, how much did CMC produce last season? Nothing. Not a single bit. Not a single bit. But he's back. He's healthy. and he looks really good. I think Trent today said he looks like the offensive player of the year again, which I'm not going to go that far, but McCaffrey looks healthy. Got to stay healthy, but I have been pretty adamant of McCaffrey looking more like his 2022 self than his 2023 self, which also was really, really good. And again, like younger guys, if guys are going to be hurt too, Christian McCaffrey, heavy load, which sucks, and that is kind of the negative or part of the negatives of not having your receivers and your guys being healthy, because you're going to have to ask more from Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, which Kittle has been relatively healthy his entire career, albeit there have been some seasons in which he's missed some times. But Christian McCaffrey, certainly you'd rather have him take a lighter load this year as he returns. So the injuries are bad. They can survive them, but it does feel like that the thought that, well, you have Grendo and James and, you have Jeff Wilson Jr. and those guys can maybe take a lot off Christian McCaffrey. That ain't going to be the case, because this team needs Christian McCaffrey to be Christian McCaffrey once again. And then let's get to my final note of the practice, because Jake Moody, who was 5 for 5 2 days ago, a perfect score on his field goal percentage, he was 3 for 5 today. He missed wide left from 47 yards and hit the upright from 55 yards. So, what is that? An 8 for 10 outing this week for Jake Moody. So not too bad. I will definitely take 8 for 10 to begin the year from Jake. Hopefully none of those kicks are game tying or game winning kicks that are missed. So, again, the Jake Moody roller coaster continues on, but there aren't too many questions left to answer, in which I am considering this as the kind of final training camp day, because as soon as they play on Saturday, they have like 3 days to get the roster cut down. So things are happening quick. Things are going to fly by fast, and there are some guys that we thought would make the roster at the beginning of training camp and preseason: Trey Brown, Taylor Jr., Corey Kiner, and others in that group that are now on injured reserve or not going to make the roster at all. So it'll be interesting to see what San Francisco does. I'm going to assume we will get our first glimpse of Isaac Grendo during the preseason on Saturday. It'll probably be him, Jeff Wilson Jr., and Keyshawn Vaughn getting the most of the reps. Out of the backfield, we are not going to see Brock Purdy, so we will get Carter Bradley and the returning Tanner Mordecai. And then we're not going to get Pearsall. We may get DeMarcus Robinson on Saturday, but I would assume we're not going to if he actually is hurt. Hence why him not doing individual drills is worth noting. But hopefully they can get healthy. Hopefully they can bounce back, and hopefully a clean bill of health leaving the final preseason game of 2025. One more game. Get through it. Nobody else get hurt. And we can finally turn our eyes towards Week 1, Niners, Seattle, in Seattle, prime time, Lumen Field, and kick off the 2025 season right. But stay tuned for my final roster prediction after the preseason game this Saturday. You can also see me live directly after the game, myself, Mark Grandy, hosting the postgame show on 95.7 The Game. Tune into that, then come right back here for our takeaways of that game on Sunday, leading into the final roster prediction, hopefully out on Monday. Football's almost here. Real football that counts is almost here, so a lot of news to cover, a lot of things to cover. We shall see what San Francisco does, whether it be via trade or free agency for the receiver room. But my assumption is they're going to pretty much stand pat unless somebody else goes down. But a lot can change, as we have seen every single day with the San Francisco 49ers. That said, I want to thank Bobo, Calachipto, Fish and Chips, Kenny, 49ers, Lori Matthews, Strawberry, Niners Goat 16, Riddy, and many, many more of you in the YouTube chat. Thank you guys for watching, listening, commenting, and partaking in the show. I hope you guys can like, share, and subscribe. And you can also follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X, or Twitter, 49ers.access is the Instagram. And you can use this promo code right here, 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Thank you once again. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett. And until next time, stay faithful.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
Want to live better?
We've got a lot of work to do.
Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.